Let's get us a poll going, shall we? Let's talk mental health awareness. If you are new to my channel, what you need to know, it's in the description box, but more than that, what you need to know is I am somebody who has been on the journey of studying many things about mental health due to the situations that my life presented from a very early age. So I ended up being a person that was very much into mental health check. I started doing a lot of research at a younger age. I got into deeper research in 2018 in terms of, okay, something is just not right. What is all of this? These personality styles, these abusive types of folks, ranging from bosses to coworkers to lovers and relatives and you name it. Like, what is this weird energy that I felt like I kept manifesting or I kept coming into no matter how hard I was working on myself as a person, no matter what path I went down, if I was being religious and saved and rededicated and going to church and serving and getting delivered at every deliverance service you can possibly find around the Americas, getting getting the deliverance and retreats and conferences and all of these various things. As I went down these paths to no avail, to only have temporary, momentary seeming, right? To only like lose its grip or something just not quite right. Um, I started really delving in. I wanted to know more about mental health. And then, not to mention, me having a son that was diagnosed at age 3, that really pushed my desire to understand various different types of mental health issues, not just the ones that are like his, but the ones who are more sadistic and abusive and intentionally cruel and all of those things. Okay, it made me want to like what makes an abuser, and I myself wasn't the best of parent as a young parent, and which led me on the journey of me asking myself what was going on with me, in my younger years as a teen mom, a young mom, right? Why was I the way I was? And so as time persisted, I really started studying mental health awareness. So I'm somebody who has gotten therapy, professional therapy. I've worked with specialists that specialize in narcissistic abuse. I am somebody who studied it. I'm somebody who's also have worked in the behavioral health industry. Okay. Yeah, twice actually, twice. So I do have a combination of things going on. The training that I took for my son when he was a little boy, I was very much highly involved from as soon as he started going to school to when he wasn't. I was one of those parents. And even though I was working throughout the years and I was in college throughout the years and different things like that, I was still very much involved. Now, this is what I want to talk about with mental health awareness. We hear a lot about it. There's a lot of programs that integrate mental health. And so I want to talk about it from a true to life, from a personal and even professional standpoint. People do assume that because you land in these situations that you don't have any education, you don't have any knowledge, you don't have any experience, that you must don't know nothing because you homeless or because you are in position to need service, and that's really kind of ignorant in itself. Lots of folks land in these situations for various reasons. I met somebody who's going right now, they're going to medical school. Yeah, we assume a lot. Yeah, somebody that obviously they must have gone through college enough to be able to even qualify for even the very beginning stages of medical school. So we assume, and that's a part of what as a human race, that's a part of what our problem is. We assume that. Neither here nor there. That's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about it from this perspective. I have a son. So I want to talk about from those who are caretakers. Okay. Not only do you have little babies, little children, you understand their situation, but maybe you're taking care of a child, a young adult, an adult that's differently able, that's also been abused like you. Okay. That has also been affected like you. So you're going to be dealing with a combination of it's a lot in the most pristine and clean situation. It's certainly a lot when you're dealing with the fact that they too have been abused and they too are affected by whatever the dynamics is that you might land in. When you're a targeted individual, they try to make sure that you're cornered in and that you don't get a moment to piss. And let me pause real quick because I got to do a clearing real quick because the sorry fucks are doing some weird shit. So stay tuned.
นะโมพระราหูเทวังปาปะจักขุโทสังคิลานากัมมังจะสปปะโส
So mental health.
สปปะอันตรายาวินา
When you're somebody that is under illegal surveillance
โนสะทาโส
by the corruption,
พระราหูเทวังรักขตุมัง
the cults, the corruption, and all of it.
เทวังปาปะ
What they're taking away or aiming to take away from that target is any
สปปะอันตรา
autonomy
ยาวินาสันตุ
and privacy.
โตระขันตุทาโสตัส
And how you say, how are they aiming to do that? How? Well, all the things that go on in the background that they manufacture and manipulate in order to create a very limited environment for the target to where they don't have it. Because look, you go outside, they cue all of those that are employed, okay, that are a part of something, okay, to appear. You go somewhere, just think about all these things. Like I said, they barely don't even want you to be able to piss. I had a situation that happened in Texas that proves the point. I went to, it was less than 2 minutes before a bitch was at the door. Okay. They do not want you to have any privacy. So since they don't want you to have any privacy, it's basically proving that they are attacking the mental wellness of an individual. Okay, I'm gonna keep talking about this stuff until enough people start putting, enough decent, integral folks start putting 2 and 2 together. They're trying to affect the target's mental health by forcing them. For example, if you have a disabled person, they tell you this when you go to therapy. They tell you this when you take all of these classes. Trust me, I went through all this stuff with my son. I was involved in his life, in the affairs of his life very closely. And I had an interest in understanding, so I educated myself. Okay. So they tell you, like, you know, that's why they have these respite programs, and they used to call them respite, and then it was another program where, like, people come and take them out and, you know, do all of these things. Now, this is where it gets challenging once you realize that you and your children have been targeted. Under normal circumstance, under healthy, civil and human rights honoring circumstances, that's the ticket. That's the way to go in order to help the caretaker or the parent to get their much needed solace so that they can keep themselves sane, so that they can keep themselves intact. So when you become a target and your children have been abused and violated, you probably aren't going to be all that comfortable with some rando strange bitch or some rando strange dude that may be one of these Masons, these 2 stars, or their cousin. You lose and so do they. They become distrusting and uncomfortable, okay, with wanting to be with any of these people after being abused and violated. So whereas normal circumstances, you'll simply just utilize the programs to get respite and social rest. That bitch, they thought I didn't know nothing about that, huh? I know all about that. And in my son's younger years, he had those services. Okay, and he had a couple of good workers that I trusted back then. But now, that's why I say punitive damages. Due to everything that these people continually do and have caused me and my son, I can't even trust the Lyft drivers. That's how grotesque and sicko, wacko these motherfuckers are. But they have them in the neighborhood waiting to take on jobs and shit. Who knows? I'm just saying, the point that I'm making, even though I'm 20% paranoid, 80% accurate. I have no interest because I've come to accept and realize that this is what our life
นะ
is
โมพระ
now.
ราหูเทวังปาปัง
And unfortunately, these people are only confirming it. The more crazy BS I encounter, the more weird, odd, and unusual shit that we experience.
โสตถีพระราหูเทวังรักขตุมังนะโมพระราหู
So what do you do? Again, once again, this is to prove the fact that they're coming for the mental health and stability of the
อาเส
target.
สะโตรักขันตุโนสะทาโสตถีพระราหูเทวังรักขตุมัง
If you're restricted into a close, tight proximity, then they tell you something like you can't leave the property.
สปปะอันตรายาวินาสันตุอาเสสะ
I don't know how legal that is. That's something I have to look into. But something like you can't leave the property without basically your adult child or whatever. So when are you getting your mental health? I want somebody to answer that question, since they claim to care about the mental health of clients.
นะโมพระราหูเทวังปาปะจักขุโทสันทิลานากัมมังจะสปปะโสวินาเสตุสปปะอันตรายาวินาสันตุอาเสสะ
When are they getting the mental health that they need? They go outside to get it. You got 5 motherfuckers coming out talking, smoking cigarettes.
สันทิลานากัมมังจะสปปะโสวินาเสตุสปปะอันตรายตุอาเสสะโตรักขันตุโนสะทาโสตถีพระราหูเทวังรักขตุมังนะโมพระราหูเทวังปาปะจักขุโทสันทิลานากัมมังจะ
It proves that these people, that be a part of this stuff have absolutely no interest whatsoever in helping with mental health, because this involves solace. A part of having proper mental health is solace.
นากัมมังจะสปปะโสวินาเสตุสปปะอันตรายาวินาสันตุอาเสสะโตรักขันตุโนสะทาโสตถี
So in other words, this is not group, because the group therapy, that ain't solace. Okay, I've done group. I've done that kind of stuff, and group therapy serves for another purpose. But when someone is overly taxed, they don't have that solace. That is what's needed, solace. That's a part of mental health.
นากัมมังจะสปปะโสวินาเสตุสปปะอันตรายาวินาสันตุอาเสสะโตรักขันตุโนสะทาโสตถีพระราหูเทวังรักขตุมังนะโมพระราหู
So to have moments to themselves without being under evaluation of anybody, whether that's a security guard, whether that is a neighbor, whether that is whatever weirdo business, whether that is a rando stray, whether that is their own household, everyone deserves to have solace. Unless you are incarcerated, and we're not. And even in that, I believe, I don't know, but I believe even in that, they do give them some kind of a space for that. But if you're not incarcerated, there should be.
นะโมพระราหูเทวังปาปะจักขุโทสันทิลานากัมมังจะสปปะโสวินาเสตุ
That is what they're doing to me
ยา
and
วิ
to
นา
my
สัน
son.
ตุอาเสสะโตรักขันตุโนสะทาโสตถีพระราหูเทวังรักขตุมังนะโมพระราหูเทวังปาปะจักขุโทสันทิลานากัมมังจะสปปะโสวินาเสตุ
Yeah, and some of these are the same people who are so-called mental health
อาเส
advocates.
สะโตรักขันตุโนสะทาโสตถีพระราหูเทวังรักขตุมัง
They're not mental health advocates when they're trying to stop
เทวัง
solace.
ปาปะจักขุโทสันทิลานากัมมังจะสปปะโส
That's
วิ
why I
นา
say
เส
people
ตุ
are frauds
สป
out
ปะ
here,
อัน
big
ตรา
time.
ยาวินาสันตุ
Huge.
อาเสสะโตรักขันตุโนสะทาโสตถีพระราหูเทวังรักขตุมังนะโมพระราหูเท เทวังปาปะจากกุโท
It's almost like, you know, and again, for the innocent out there who stumbles across my video and you have a program or you have a service and you're a good person and you give your heart and you mean well, then I honor you and I'm not talking about you. So please don't take offense, because if the shoe don't fit, then you don't have to wear it. But if the shoe fits, then it fits. Okay? I am inclined to believe that a lot of cases, the reason why it's like fake is because if the people are really helped, then there will be no need for certain services anymore.
You don't know where they are hiding.
Which would mean there will be no need for the funding.
This is
which would
exactly how
mean
a remote hex
people
works.
lose their jobs.
Someone, somewhere, is burning a candle with your name on it, or chanting over a doll.
So there needs to be a population, because there needs to be a population to serve.
Back against. Most protection magic works like a shield. It waits for the bullet to hit and
Now, I
tries to
certainly
stop it.
honor all legit
There is a
systems
specific,
and folks out there.
aggressive form of Thai
I'm going to say
sorcery
that again.
that
I
doesn't just
continue
block
to
the
salute
bullet. It
folks
sends
who
a
are
shockwave
sincere
back
in this
up the
world.
trajectory to take out the
Okay?
sniper.
Not enough of you folks.
This is the lore of the Mai Fa Pa, the Thunderbolt Wood retribution. To understand why this is considered so dangerous and effective, you have to look at the material itself. The Thunderbolt Wood isn't just a fancy
When
name.
we were in
It
Silsbee,
refers to wood from
it
a
was
tree
a
that
little
was
bit
literally
different because
struck by
Silsbee
lightning
is a
and died
country rural
standing.
town,
In the
and it
eyes of
wasn't
Thai
much
masters,
that you
this
can
isn't
do there.
just
They
timber
don't
anymore.
even have a public
When a bolt of
transportation
lightning,
system, and
millions
good
of
luck
bolts
with
of
trying to
pure
get an Uber
celestial
out there. So
energy
you really are
slams
up
into a
Shit's
tree.
Creek in
The wood is
Silsbee
fundamentally
if
changed.
you don't have
It
a car.
stops being a biological object
So
and becomes a battery.
even though this stuff was happening there, it didn't have to happen in a real major magnitude because there was nothing to do and nowhere to go.
In the marketplace of amulets and talismans,
But it was happening there.
for things that bring charm,
It just wasn't
slow,
necessary
steady wealth.
to happen in the way in which it's happening now, to the
It is the
magnitude.
occult equivalent of a bug zapper. The philosophy behind this magic is
We
fascinating.
were supposed to get sick and die in
Because it deals with the
Silsbee.
concept
It was really
of
supposed to end there.
when
That
a
was the whole
sorcerer
plot.
casts
We
a
were
curse at
severely
you from a
poisoned,
distance,
and all sorts of things happened there. And since it was isolated in the country from the town, that was where that was supposed to be our end. I was either supposed to be dead, in the hospital, incapacitated, something to that effect.
Cut the wire. But masters who wield the Thunderwood utilize a different strategy. They use that invisible connection as a conductor.
Now, moving forward, I saw it, and I'm going to get into this as the next few days and weeks pass. I'm going to start divulging more and more information, depending on how things go.
Touches your aura, the Thunderbolt Wood reacts. It doesn't ask questions. It channels that dormant lightning energy.
Because I sought certain individuals for help that landed me where me and my son are. And the fact that all of this stuff is going on so rapidly to the magnitude that it is concerning.
Inexplicably cracked or caught fire when they tried to curse someone protecting themselves.
Was that a bat?
And the things that have continued to transpire since I've gotten here too, it's only reinforcing that concern.
It turns the attacker's own weapon against them. If they open a door to send bad energy your way, the Thunderbolt Wood kicks the door open and floods their room with blinding, scorching heat. This is why it is often called the magic of retribution. It isn't about revenge in the emotional sense.
Mental health requires you have time to yourself. When it's not about managing somebody else's emotions,
It's just the nature of electricity.
when it's not about having to be forced into conversations out of politeness,
Makes you dangerous to touch. It
so
solves
that's
the
an energy
problem
grid.
of the remote attacker because you don't need to know who they are. You
No.
don't need their name. The lightning knows the way. It follows the trail of the
Mental
curse
health
right back to its origin
awareness
and neutralizes
and
the
mental
threat
health practice
with the
includes
force of a storm.
solace. And if folks aren't with that and they're bypassing that, then they really don't care about your mental health. They just want it to look like they do.
It clears the air, burning away the heavy, suffocating fog of bad luck, like the sun burning off a morning mist.
For an example, I don't need a group.
Heavy artillery,
A group session, I did group therapy a lot years ago, and it serves depending on what you're dealing with.
Decisively. To tap into this specific frequency,
but once again, that's energy with a bunch of folks, that a bunch of sometimes we simply, what's funny is some people's mental health increases just by getting the freaking solace that they need. Sometimes it's not even as bad as people are trying to make it seem in terms of the target. Sometimes the person just needs to be left the fuck alone, and folks will see their mental health balance out like it's a miracle. They just need to be left alone. People playing in their face and being weird and following them around in Ubers and Lyfts and shit, like that kind of shit. Doing weird hand gestures and shit. They all do the same. They all do the same shit, and they be thinking I'm not paying attention because I let them think that.
เตชนะสัพเพภูตวินัสสันตุอาทิตตาวชิระเตชนะวชิระสัตตังสัมปันนังภูตวินัส
Because what they do when they think you're not looking, or like that you're only just looking at a peripheral, they'll do this. There's these hand gestures and moves that they do when they're in your biofield, and sometimes just even from a car driving around. And they try to overwhelm you and ambush you so that they can do this because you're concentrating on whatever other things that you're concentrating on. So are these people really trying to help with the mental health of the target, or are they trying to work against it?
สักกังพุทธเตชนะรักขามิธรรมเตชนะรักขามิสังฆเตชนะรักขามิวชิระโคระเตชนะสัพเพภูตวินัส
Are they really helping as they do their weird shit? Or are they on assignment?
สัมปันนังภูตวินัสสักกังพุทธเตชนะรักขามิธรรมเตชนะรักขา
They don't care about the mental health of the target. They're there to deteriorate it with their bullshit.
สันตุอาทิตตาวชิระเตชนะวชิระสัตตังสัมปันนังพุทธวินัสสักกังพุทธเตชนะรักขามิธรรมเตชนะรักขามิสังฆเตชนะรักขามิวชิระโคระเตชนะสัพเพภูตวินัส
Some of our mental health will be balanced out when folks like myself and my son, first and foremost, get our human and our civil rights fully restored with full punitive damages paid to us.
เตชนะสัพเพภูตวินัสสันตุอาทิตตาวชิระเตชนะวชิระสัตตังสัมปันนังภูตวินัสสักกังพุทธเตชนะรักขา
Trying to hide illegal surveillance through programs such as shelters and stuff like that is also a sicko wacko shit.
วชิระเตชนะวชิระสัตตังสัมปันนังภูตวินัสสักกังพุทธเตชนะรักขามิธรรมเตชนะรักขามิ
To have proper mental health, solace, solitude, privacy, to be with yourself. That doesn't always have to be somebody's trying to be sneaky. The only people who are excessively thinking that way are corrupt niggas and bitches. And I said what I said, and I'll say it eye to eye to anybody, any day. And the only reason why they think that way is because of how they themselves operate. That's so you can be in your own energy, so you can what? Rejuvenate, all the self-help shit that we hear, the self-care, the self-help. Do they really want you to have that? Maybe not.
รักขามิวชิระโคระเตชนะสัพเพภูตวินัสสันตุอาทิตตาวชิระเตชนะวชิระสัตตังสัมปันนังภูตวินัสสักกัง พุทธเตชนะรัก
So
ขา
if
มิ
any
ธ
of
รร
you
มเต
stumble
ช
on
นะ
this
รัก
video
ขามิสังฆเตชนะ
and you
รัก
find
ขา
in
มิวะ
yourself in
ชิระโคระ
situations where
เตช
people
นะสัพเพ
are
ภูตาวิ
seeming
นะ
to
สันตุอธิตาวา
intrude, no
ชิระ
matter
เตช
what
นะ
time of the day, no matter
ว
what,
ชิระ
where,
สัพพัง
where,
สัพพัน
how,
นั
and
งภูตา
why,
วินะ
that it's hard for you to
พุทธ
get
เตชนะ
5
รัก
minutes
ขามิ
without
ธรรม
some
เตชนะ
random
รักขา
energy
มิสัง
seeming
ฆ
to
เตชนะ
manifest like
รักขา
roaches
มิวะชิระ
out
โค
of
ระ
nowhere.
เตชนะสัพเพภูตาวินะสันตุอธิตาวาชิระเตชนะวชิระ
These
สัพ
people are
พังสัพพัน
intentionally
นังภู
trying
ตา
to
วินะ
deteriorate your
สัก
mental
กัง
health.
พุทธเตชนะรักขามิธรรมเตชนะรักขามิสังฆเตชนะรักขามิวะ
Take
ชิระ
notes,
โคระ
take
เตช
names,
นะสัพ
take
เพภู
dates,
ตาวินะ
take
สัน
badges,
ตุอธิตาวะชิระ
because
เต
these
ช
are
นะ
people
วชิระสัพปังสัพปันนังภูตาวินะสักกังพุทธเตชนะ
who have
รักขามิ
intentionally
ธรรมเตช
enlisted
นะรักขามิสัง
and
ฆ
trying to
เต
fuck
ช
with
นะ
you.
รักขามิวะชิระโคระเตชนะสัพเพภูตาวินะ